Hello and welcome to the Toronto International Film Festival. My name is Peter Kaplowski. Normally you see me at midnight, but they've been kind to me and they've let me introduce other films and program other films in the festival. And this one I am particularly excited about. I think, while I'm known for thrilling and explosive and dynamic films at the midnight section, I can assure you all those ingredients are here in this film tonight. I would first like to thank our lead and major sponsors, Bell, RBC, Bulgari, and Visa, for their continued support. And I'd like to thank our major supporters at the Government of Canada, the Government of Ontario, Telefilm Canada, and the City of Toronto for their continued support. The film is eligible for the Platform Prize for Best in the Platform Program. Yes, that's right. This is a platform film. It's very exciting. It's also eligible for, of course, the People's Choice Award. That decision lies with you at tiff.net/vote. And I would like to thank Creative Artists Agency, CAA, for providing us with this film. And it is a very special film. I haven't even said the title yet. One of the reasons for that is because when this film was first introduced to me, it was pretty much a secret movie. Didn't even have an IMDb page, which I guess is what films require to exist in the world. But this was sent to me. I was familiar with the filmmakers behind it. They had done an extraordinary film a few years ago called Cam. Anyone see that? And this film, pun intended, blew me away. It's called How to Blow Up a Pipeline, and the filmmakers behind it are Daniel Goldhaber, Ariela Barer, Jordan Sjol, and Daniel Garber.
Hi, I'll try to be brief, but thank you so much, Peter, for that amazing introduction. Thank you to the Toronto Film Festival for programming this movie. We are living in pretty difficult times, and we are kind of undergoing a climate crisis, kind of as we speak. And I think that it's really important that we make movies and tell stories that challenge, what we should do about that and how we can continue to live on this planet in a sustainable way. And that's like a kind of urgent conversation to have. And this was a movie that we tried to make very urgently. We came up with the idea for this film 19 months ago. And it has been kind of a marathon sprint to tonight. And that has only been possible because we've had the support of an incredible number of super talented people, a lot of whom are here. And I just wanted to take a moment to recognize some of them, from Andreas Malm, who wrote the book that this movie is based on, who trusted us with his ideas and who, introduced us to so many incredible people and just has supported us in so many amazing ways. To our producers, David Visti, Adam Tate, Danielle Mandel, my longtime creative collaborator, Issa Matsei, who couldn't be here tonight, but they figured out how to make this movie, which was a truly, truly difficult task. I also just want to recognize our crew. We have so many amazing crew members here. They made this movie in 3 different states in insane environmental conditions on film, and they're all incredible talented people, and they worked so hard on this. We also have an amazing ensemble cast of young, actors who are just the most talented people I could have imagined working with, who really brought themselves to this movie and who did everything that you're about to see for real in the dirt on film. And I'm just so grateful to their collaboration, to their vision for this and for bringing themselves to this movie. And finally, I just want to thank our financiers, Lyrical and Spacemaker, Alex Black, Alex Hughes. They believed in this project. They let us make this movie the exact way that we wanted to tell the exact story we wanted to tell in an independent way, and they've been amazing collaborators, and they make independent film happen, and I'm just so grateful to them for believing in this project. It really takes a village to make a movie, but I also think it takes a village to author a film. And, I've been lucky enough to have a collective of other filmmakers to work with on this movie, who are also some of my close friends, but who are some of the most brilliant people I know. Dan Garber, our editor, who turned this into the heist movie action film that it is, and who I went to school with, and I wouldn't know how to make movies without. Jordan Sjol, who wrote the script with me and Ariela. He found the book. He also had to figure out how to do everything that you're about to see down to the milligram. It is exactingly accurate, and he was in charge of all of that and a lot more. And Ariela, who wrote this movie, produced this movie, stars in this movie, is like a force to be reckoned with. She has been with me every single day making this for the last year and a half. There'd be no movie without her, and I'm just so grateful to her for the friendship and collaboration that we've had. Finally, I'll shut up in like just a second. I'm sorry, but I want to dedicate this movie to my parents who are in the audience tonight, who spent the last 30 years in climate research and technology and have been part of the group of scientists and truth tellers warning us about what we are already living through and about what is coming. And I hope that we finally start listening to what they've been saying. And I'm just so grateful to them for raising me with a like impending sense of doom, but also a love of film and a work ethic. And so I just really hope that this movie honors them and their work. And I also want to dedicate this movie to anybody who has had to engage in direct action to protect themselves or their families or their community or their land or their air or their water, who've sacrificed their bodies or their lives or their freedom, many of whom are incarcerated today. I hope this movie does justice to your sacrifice. So thank you so much for being here. It's a really fun movie, and we'll see you after it's over.
Without further ado, let's learn how to blow up a pipeline. Please welcome
And
Hey.
there you go. Hey!
We're missing some. Is my mic?
Yeah, it is. It just doesn't sound it from here.
Oh, yeah, we're missing some cast and crew, too. I think we're missing Lucas and Audrey and Eunice. If they want to come up here, too.
Please take the stage and take your bow.
Yeah.
And
well, I just
Adam
let-
Tate, too.
Tate.
If he wants to come up.
I'd like to just start by saying
Tate.
I love it when a plan comes together. I just wanted to say that. But we just watched a movie in which a whole group of people came together to do one thing, one goal. And through the course of the film, we find out how they came to be part of this goal and what motivated them. And so I'd be really interested to hear, frankly, from everyone, this incredible cast and crew, how they came to work together.
I mean, I just sat back and let them do all the work. So.
I met Danny ages ago reading Cam, and we'd been working on other projects, and I was reading Andreas's book in LA in the winter and gave it to Danny, and we were all COVID locked down together and podding, and it started there.
Okay, the truth of the matter is that this came together because Danny basically reenacted this script and this story, but like in making a movie. That's what happened. The way this managed to like manifest is because this man just pushes things forwards in an incredible way. And so gathered together this incredible team very swiftly, and we made this movie over the course of the past 19 months, but it was pell-mell.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to hear the cast.
Yeah.
Too.
No, I mean, it was kind of cool. I met Danny over just a Zoom actually about a completely different project.
Well, I had like another movie I was making, but I
Yeah.
wanted to make this first, so I used that meeting, like movie, to get meetings with all these actors we wanted to cast in this movie. And then like halfway through, I'd be like, yeah, enough of that movie. I have this other thing I want to do.
And so then, he kind of just sold me on the story and the character, and it was like something that definitely wanted to be a part of. Yeah.
Yeah, Danny kind of bamboozled me because, he's. I got on a Zoom call with him, and he told me one of my best friends, Sasha Lane, was a part of the project. We did a film called The Miseducation of Camera and Post together, and thank you. And so he was like, she's on the project. So I was like, yes, absolutely. If she's on the project, I'll be on the project. And apparently you said the same thing to Sasha. It's like, Forrest is on the project. And so she's like, yeah.
It was a heist the whole time.
It was a heist within a heist. So
I have no recollection
That's
of
how
this.
that happened.
Yeah, kind of. I think we all have similar origin stories. Danny kind of he got on the Zoom call. He talked the sweet talk. I thought the movie had a really important message and something that I hadn't seen done before in this kind of format. It's like a really high-paced action heist movie set with like a climate change mission, which I thought was extremely dope. So, I just wanted to be a part of it.
Oh, we're doing this?
Come on, Maddie.
Yeah, I came onto the project. I think I was the last one cast. Like 2 weeks before.
8 days.
Yeah,
8 days before we started shooting.
And
Jake shaved his head.
I
think 20 minutes after our meeting.
I got like a breakdown, like an email sent, and I just saw the title, and it was How to Blow Up a Pipeline, and I was like, all right, I'm sign me up. So, yeah.
If there are no other burning anecdotes about the origin stories of this project.
The one thing I'll say that I think is also just like spiritually important to this movie is that, we were all in lockdown together. We had kind of spent, a year of COVID kind of like, and also forest fires in California. And I think just like feeling like very, just kind of powerless, and also just like powerless in the world, powerless in our careers, powerless in like a film industry that has been like very destabilized, and wanting to kind of do something and tell a story that felt to us to be very, very relevant. And so part of that like urgency, I think that everybody on this stage kind of was a part of in making this movie, was feeling like, we were not seeing things that felt very relevant to the things that we were living through, and wanting to tell a story that felt true to that, and wanting also to tell it in a way that was true to the ideas independently, and like working as a collective and working as a team. And so I think at the end of the day, that was like the thing that was also kind of pushing all of us to do this.
With respect to that, when adapting an academic work into something that is, for all intents and purposes, at times like a full-on genre film, what were the challenges there in sort of when in taking Andreas's book and making that adaptation, like bringing it into a genre space?
I think for the three of us, it was really a question of like figuring out what the ideas were, and then figuring out how to manifest that. And Ariela, I think in particular, like was somebody who, like when we kind of started making the movie, Jordan and I were like, we're going to make like a propaganda film, and it's going to be like really edgy. And Ariela was like, that sounds bad.
It was like, it sounded like fine. I didn't want to go to jail, but I wanted to make the movie. So a lot of the early conversations were just around the ethics of like putting an idea like this out in the world, and what the personal consequences of that would be. And then that kind of slowly became the script itself. And then it was a balance of like, what is too didactic? What is just visceral, putting you in the ideas and the action of this concept that Andreas just so brilliantly articulates in his book. How do we like put you immediately in the situation?
And I think it was also when we found our characters at some point, and it was once we had our characters that we really started, it was a story instead of an argument.
And something else is that I think we also like we wanted, I think something that came up early during this process was wanting to like dramatize Andreas's ideas, and also starting from this place of like, we want to make something really crazy and edgy, and then eventually being like, okay, let's challenge that. Let's challenge, where is that idea and where is that like emotion coming from? Okay, let's like manifest that in a character, you know, and let's have somebody who's pushing back. And, you know, Andreas articulates some of the counter arguments in his book, so let's dramatize those. And then also let's think about the different kinds of people across this country who are being impacted by climate change, and let's try to kind of speak to that. But I think also something that was really important to us more than anything was having this feel like, if there is kind of an aspirational quality to what you see in the movie, it's that a collective comes together and does something and doesn't break down, and that these people come together united by a shared mission and actually do it. And
I was just going to say it's true. I mean, sometimes when you watch these movies, you can cite many sort of progressive movies in which, you know, the ending is kind of a bitter pill. And at least, you know, here there's a sense of like, oh, a collective can come together and can achieve their goal.
And again, I think that the idea is that that's a complicated goal.
Yeah.
And it's a goal that like we all have mixed feelings about in terms of, you know, but it's a goal that means something to them, and I think it's a goal that we want people to empathize with and understand, and understand kind of the full array of pros and cons and reasons and counter arguments kind of behind it. And so, you know, I think that Ariela in particular was kind of driving the characters and also ran a kind of research process of, you know, we had a lot of people. Olive, who plays Katie so magnificently, also worked on the script. And kind of was our Texas consultant and kind of got all of our dialects right, and, you know, had a lot of insight into kind of the kind of background that Dwayne and even Theo would kind of come from. And so part of that process too was also just like working directly with people who, you know, also spoke to the lived experience in the film very directly.
I'd love to hear from the cast too, with respect to what they were bringing to their characters. Was it a collaborative process insofar that you had the flexibility to bring characterization that wasn't necessarily on the page?
I would say, yeah, like there was a lot of rewrites and talks about Michael's character just in terms of nailing where he comes from. And I think like there were passes where I would talk to like friends, like my friend in the audience, Aj Kapashisit, who like was early on like having long conversations, because like I'm not necessarily in like the kind of revolutionary aspect of like Indian country, but a lot of my friends are. So like it just kind of like Danny allowed a space for like this huge web of like sort of different voices in Indian country to come together. And then we actually ended up shooting on like my reservation in Fort Berthold, which is where you saw me like in the snow in -40, which was very, very difficult, but I'm glad we got to do it. And like that's a reality for, you know, my homeland up in North Dakota. It's like the second largest oil field in the country. So like those specificities, I think, like for me, were so important. I think it was for like all of us and our characters.
Yeah, Danny and I definitely had a lot of conversations just about Alicia and what it means for her, somebody who is more so about affecting people, and you see her in the kitchens and working with the community, what it takes for her to be convinced to join something like this. She's probably the most hesitant individual out of everybody. And one scene in particular is the scene where, you know, they're all talking about, okay, so are we going to be considered terrorists? You know, and going back to the making it less about presenting an argument and more about these people. My favorite bit was when MLK is brought up, right? And it's like, are we really gonna try and make this similar to civil rights movement? Is that what's happening? And just being able to vocalize that and have that conversation, because that is a very real opinion that even I would share when you're talking about environmental activism, right? Where does that fall in the line of importance for certain people? So yeah, there was a lot of input in shaping these characters to really bring them forward out of an argument and into real life conflict.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think Sean's character was extremely interesting because after having my initial chat with Danny, it was pretty clear that Sean was kind of modeled after him in a way in his like life experiences. He doesn't really come from a background where he's like directly affected by all of these. I mean, of course, we're all directly affected, but he's not by the oil refineries, or he doesn't have terminal cancer, but he becomes impassioned through his parents are researchers, which was something that I think was in another draft, little behind the scenes. But yeah, finding what that voice would look like, and I think also being out there on the ranch was kind of enlightening, because I was honestly terrified that we were going to get arrested. So I think that helped to fuel the character a little bit. So yeah, it was a great experience, and Sean's a very interesting character with an interesting perspective.
Yeah, my favorite was when we were all we all got together. It was kind of the first time the entire cast was together for the y'all want some deer meat scene.
Yeah.
And it just really, it was so cool to see all these like very kind of, these different people kind of come together, and it we're all there for a common cause, and it kind of, you see someone like Dwayne who kind of represents maybe the other side of things and the other side of the conversation, and you just see how, people can come together, and it can kind of transcend, so many different, politics and what have you, and seeing all these people together, I think that's when it felt like we were doing something.
Can we talk about Dwayne's accent? I mean, come on. I know y'all were shocked that he didn't have
Honestly,
an accent.
like Olive, thank you. No, because I was saying like oil, and it's actually they say ol, and I had to like redo it because it's all.
I'm moving out of the light to see if there are some questions in the audience.
It's like, yeah, we're done with that.
Right there.
I mean, it's called How to Blow Up a Pipeline. I wanted to put a bibliography in the credits, but I will say it is well Greeked. There's parts missing.
One thing I'd like to credit someone who is not here for is Tahila DeCastro, our DP. Incredible work. And one of the reasons we were so drawn to her and her work is this sort of romantic film lens that she brings to a lot of her work. And I think a lot of radical movies with radical subject matters want to alienate the audience to what they're looking at and the ideas that they're digesting. And instead we made it and Tahila specifically made it so warm and inviting.
The only other thing I'll say is we did have expert consultation on the movie, which for two reasons. One, we wanted to get it right, but there's a technical advisor credited as anonymous, who's somebody who's very high up in counterterrorism in the United States military, who's requested to remain anonymous, but who we worked with both to get everything accurate and also to make sure that we weren't doing anything dangerous by putting anything in the movie. It was kind of both things. We wanted to get it right, but we also didn't want to do something bad by making the film. And so he was somebody who was very, very interested for professional reasons and kind of also motivating a conversation about how easily accessible bombs are to make. And also, I think from a nerdy perspective, is always annoyed that they're never made right in movies and wanted to see it done right for once.
Right there.
This is me? Okay.
A connection between acting and activism.
Yeah, I've always been very interested in politics, and one of the early motivators and passions behind my work as an actor is, as they say, the empathy building machine. It is quite literally you taking a character and circumstances that are not your own and fully understanding them and internalizing them. And I think that was kind of the root of my want to tell stories. And while I've, it's evolved and it's changed since then, I do still hold on to that dearly. Yeah. Cool.
I'd like to hear from Daniel Garber just about the editing process, because one of the things that really struck me about the film was the nonlinear structure and how delicate a balance that was in sort of pacing out the film. It feels, and this could be wrong, but it feels somewhat indebted to the opening of Sorcerer in the way it's cutting back to characters. But I'd love to hear from you.
Well, to give credit where it's due, that was all basically in the writing. I mean, the nonlinear structure was the conceit from the get-go. And I guess the question really was, at the beginning of the edit, is this going to work at all? Or do we have to fundamentally reconceive the entire movie and figure out how else to structure it? And it's very fortunate for me that these three thought through things quite thoroughly. And so that wasn't as much of a challenge as I thought it was going to be. But I do think that the flashback structure was hard to get exactly right. Like, I think we understood early on in the edit that it was going to work in a more general sense. But getting the audience to understand, okay, we are in a flashback, this is going to keep happening, you're going to learn something about how each of these characters is being radicalized and motivated to engage in this action. All of those things have to be conveyed very efficiently. And so it was hard to kind of figure out, especially during the very first flashback, Xochitl's flashback, how to make that work.
We have time for one more question right over there. All right, pyro time. Good final question. Let's talk about the pyrotechnics.
I unfortunately probably not quite as interesting as you might think. I think the answer is we built a pipeline and blew it up. Yeah, Audrey built a pipeline. Yeah, which actually is
Make a bow, Audrey.
Yeah. Out of like cardboard and like wood, because we couldn't put any metal or screws in it when we blew it up because it was like a shrapnel like thing. And then we had like different parts of the pipe. Do you want to talk a bit about the pipeline and like how you did it? Because it's actually crazy.
Yeah, basically the part where he's climbing on top of the pipeline, that had to be safe. So it was made out of PVC, and PVC is like insanely expensive. So the rest of the pipeline is made out of cardboard. It's sonotube. And my art director, who's sitting in the audience, helped me figure this whole thing out. But I just have to say, when I first interviewed Danny, he wanted the pipeline to be 500 feet long. But we reduced it to 150.
I was like, how hard could it be? And Audrey was like, extremely expensive. But other than that, we had two amazing special effects guys working with us, and they used what's called kitty pack to blow it up, which is actually, it's a kind of professional grade ammonium nitrate, which is the explosive that they're using, the bulk explosive that they're using in the movie. So at the end of the day, it's kind of like just the real thing. And then, it's just, that's it. We had one take. It was scary.
And congratulations. Please put your hands together for the filmmakers of How to Blow Up a Pipeline.